I've trained and coached over 10,000 producers in the last 33 years, helping them sell over $1 billion of new business commission. But here's the thing, we made every mistake you can make in this business. And even though it was hard, those mistakes became our greatest lessons. Rejection, lost deals, screw ups. That's how we figured out what actually works. And in the next 40 minutes, I will share with you everything I've learned in the last 33 years of my life coaching producers. Hi there, I'm Randy Schwantz, and welcome to the Big Nation channel, the home of the triple threat solution, sales training, sales CRM, and sales management platform, all in one integrated system. All right, let's get into the first section, and this might be the most important one. We're going to talk about money, the real truth about money that nobody else wants to tell you because it's uncomfortable. See, most insurance agents think that this business is about selling insurance. Wrong. This business is about creating wealth. And there's a massive difference between making an enjoyable living and creating wealth. Most agents never figure that out, which is why they're just north of broke at age 60, meaning they have $300,000 to $400,000 saved. So here's lesson one. It's not how much you make, it's how much you save that creates wealth. And listen to me carefully. This is where most producers get it completely backwards. I watch guys celebrate their biggest commission months by going out and buying a boat, a new truck, or taking some expensive vacation. Then they wonder why they're stressed about money 3 months later. I see producers bragging about their big commission months on social media, posting pictures of their commission checks, acting like they're rich. But here's what they don't post: their savings account balance. Because most of them have saved very little beyond their company-sponsored 401k, very little. And the guy making $200,000 and saving $60,000 a year will build considerably more wealth than the guy making the same amount of money and spend it on lifestyle, saving nothing. And I mean infinitely more. Because wealth isn't just about how much you make, it's about how much you save. That's how you create wealth. I got this text. He said, "Hey Randy, this is Scott. Andy told you my middle son is getting married in Beaufort, South Carolina on Saturday. Thank you for coaching me up over the years in the wedge sales process. It has allowed me to write the check for Nick's wedding." Nick had doubled his income pretty rapidly, and with that tripled his savings ability, and you can too. It starts with clear intent. Lesson number two, the $65,000 reality check moment. Look, this is a moment that changed everything for me, and I want you to have your own version of this moment right now. So here's what happened to me. I was down in Houston, Texas, running a sales meeting. A guy shows up about 8:30, about 30 minutes after we started, apologized for being late, and he said, "Hey man, I slept in because I didn't get in until about 4:30 in the morning." And I just said, what are you doing out so late? He said he'd driven from Houston to Lubbock, Texas, dropped his daughter off at Texas Tech, and drove all the way back. And I go, "Well, okay, do you have any other kids at school?" He said, "Yeah, this is my second." And I kind of looked at him and I said, "At least the good news is it's all paid for, isn't it?" And he shakes his head no. And then that's when I kind of had my moment. Like, I got 4 kids. At that point, they were 6, 4, 2, and newborn. And I had no plan for them. So I go back to Dallas. I call up a financial advisor, invite him over for Saturday morning. And we're sitting around our coffee table. And he asked me, "What's your goals?" I said, "Well, I got a 6, 4, 2, and newborn. I need to buy 4 cars, pay for 4 universities, pay for 4 weddings, and fund my own retirement. How much money do I need to do that?" And he got out his HP calculator at that point, started calculating, putting all the numbers in there, boom, boom, boom. In fact, the thing kind of started to smoke. It was such a big deal. And then he wrote $65,000 on a yellow pad and held it up. And he said, "That's it. That's your number." I said, "That's it. That's all I got to do is save $65,000. He said, "Yes. $65,000 a year, every year for the next 20 years. And at that point, I could save about $7,500. So I was underfunding my future, $57,500 a year, and I felt the pain of that. And so basically I had 2 choices: either figure out how I could or try to tell my wife and kids why I can't. So I got on with that, and that really became my deal. So when I found out that I needed to save $65,000 a year for 20 years just to have a decent retirement, it scared the hell out of me. And it should have, because up until that point, I was playing around with my money like most producers do, thinking that because I made decent money, I'd be financially secure. But doing the actual math, that was terrifying. And that terror became the fuel for everything I did differently from that point forward. It wasn't about feeling rich or wealthy or financially affluent. It was about actually becoming financially safe. And there's a massive difference. Lesson number 3, Saturday morning financial routine. Now I want to give you something tactical that you can start doing this weekend. Every Sunday morning, and I mean every Sunday morning, I get up way before the family does. I get a cup of coffee, I go to my office, and I get out my 3-ring yellow binder. I turn to the tab that says weekly update and I start putting the numbers down. I have 13 accounts set up on Schwab.com. Why? Because I have 4 daughters that I'm responsible for. And so I will update every account, 4 cars, 4 university tuitions, 4 weddings, and 1 retirement. And then I write down my personal and business savings account balance, then my personal and business checking account balance, and last my business profits for the year to date. It takes me about 10 to 12 minutes. Then I compare that to where I needed to be because some of those events were 10 years out, 12 years out, 14 years out, all the way up to 25 years out. Now, this is not where I hoped to be at some point. It's not where I dreamed of being. It's where I mathematically needed to be in order to hit my targets. And this routine, it kept me focused. It kept me disciplined and motivated week after week and actually year after year. And a lot of you have no idea where you actually stand financially. You're flying blind, hoping everything will work out, but that's a weak strategy, one you can fix in about 90 minutes of work. And so to me, this is fun. I mean, it was a game I was playing, and it's how I kept score. Looking at your financial reality every week keeps you engaged. Little changes over time create big outcome in 10, 20, or 30 years. It's a lot better than being 55 years old and realizing you can't afford to retire ever. Lesson 4, draw your financial timeline. Right now, and I mean right now, I want you to stop this video and do something that 95% of agents will never do. Draw a timeline from today until out there when you want to quit selling, either because you're too old or too rich or both. And then on that timeline, mark every big financial event. When will you start to have kids? When will your spouse stop working? When will you start paying for private school tuition for the kids? When do you want to buy a new house? When do you want to buy cars for the kids? When are you going to kids go to college? When are you going to have to pay for the weddings? And when do you want to retire? Now, here's the part that separates winners from losers. Putting a real number on every single element. And don't be cheap. Don't play scared. If you want your daughter's wedding to be special, what does that actually cost? If you want to retire comfortably, what is that actually going to take? Most producers never do this exercise because they're afraid of what they'll discover. They'd rather live in denial than face the math. But now, denial doesn't pay for college or weddings. Denial doesn't fund your retirement. Only real money does. And once you see those real numbers, everything changes. Your account selection changes. Your work ethic changes. Your willingness to have difficult conversations changes. Because now you know you're not just selling insurance, you're funding life. Section 2, account strategy that actually works. Now that we've talked about the money truth, let's talk about how you actually make that money. And this is where most agents completely screw themselves over. They think activity equals results. They think busy equals productive. They think writing more accounts means making more money. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. And what I'm about to tell you goes against everything your manager probably taught you, everything your agency probably measures, and everything that feels good in the moment. But it's the difference between struggling for decades and getting financially wealthy in this business. All right, so here we go. Lesson 5. Writing small accounts makes you feel good. So does a big scoop of ice cream. You know what both have in common? They both make you fat and broke. Small accounts are the insurance industry's version of junk food. They taste good going down. They can make you feel like you're accomplishing something, but they're slowly killing your business without you realizing it. I watch agents get excited about writing an $8,000 premium account with $800 of agency revenue. You get 35%, which is $280. After you pay Uncle Sam his share, you walk away with $196. Yeah, you could take your spouse out back steakhouse and celebrate, but Capital Grill is off the table if you want a salad or a glass of wine. The point is, small accounts might give you a hit of dopamine because you wrote a piece of business, but it's really hard to make a good living and much less save any money. But here's what they don't realize. It takes 357 small accounts like that to make $100,000. And now you're in prison because you have to help service and renew those accounts for very little money. And every time you write a small account, you're making an unconscious decision to stay busy and stay broke. Lesson 6. If you lose a small account, it doesn't hurt as bad. Look, I've heard 1,000 times. If you write a big account and lose it, it really hurts. If you lose a small account, you barely notice. No kidding, Sherlock. It doesn't take a great detective to figure that one out. The reason you barely notice is because there's no money in small accounts. Stop playing scared. If you want to take care of your family, you have the opportunity to move upstream, to go middle market. If you do, your average range will be between, say, 10 and 20,000 in revenue. It is very hard to create financial independence writing accounts that don't hurt to lose unless you're a State Farm agent with a staff of 5 or 6 people churning those small accounts, freeing you up to keep prospecting and selling. If losing the account doesn't hurt, that means it wasn't worth much to begin with. And if it wasn't worth much to begin with, you're not going to grow your income, much less your wealth, writing them. So here's the brutal truth. You either hurt when you lose accounts because they're worth real money, or you don't hurt because they're not worth much. You can't have both. And most agents choose not to hurt. When they do, they fortify their prison. Lesson 7, the 5 versus 75 accounts choice. Let me give you a scenario that will change how you think about this business forever. If I told you that you were going to write $100,000 in new business revenue every year for the next 3 years, and I gave you a choice, you could either write 5 accounts worth $20,000 each or 75 accounts worth $1,300 each, which would you choose? Well, a lot of agents would choose the 75 because it feels like more activity, more relationships, more opportunities, but they're wrong. And here's why. 3 years from now, if you choose the 5 accounts, you'll have 15 total accounts to manage and renew. If you choose the 75 accounts, you'll have 225 accounts to manage and renew. Do the math on what that means for your time. Do the math on what that means for your stress level. Do the math on what that means for your ability to provide anything other than commoditized service. With 15 accounts, you can know every detail about every client's business. You can provide proactive service instead of just responding to requests. You can build real relationships that lead to better introductions. You can actually add value that justifies lifetime retention. With 225 accounts, you're an order taker. You're a policy processor. You're providing commodity service at commodity prices, and you'll soon be replaced by some AI robot that knows more than you do and can offer instant service on most things. Lesson 8, if you write it, you have to renew it. This is the lesson that most agents learn too late, if they've already trapped themselves in a prison of their own making. Every account you write today becomes a renewal obligation next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. Until the client either fires you or goes out of business, you're married to that account. And I've seen agents who are so buried in renewals, they can't prospect for new business. They spend 80, 90, or 100% of the time just trying to keep what they have. They're making a decent living, but they're boxed in. No room for growth. So think about this. If you have 100 small accounts, you'll spend the next 12 months renewing them. When do you have time to write new business? When do you have time to go after the big accounts that could change your life? You don't. You're trapped in a cycle of small account servicing that keeps you busy, but keeps you broke. Lesson number 9, the 80-20 rule on steroids. Here's something that will change your business immediately if you implement it. Identify the top 20% of your accounts that produce 80% of your commission income. Those accounts get written service timelines. And I'm not talking about good service for your best accounts. I'm talking about great service that's documented, scheduled, and delivered consistently. Your best accounts should get quarterly business reviews, annual coverage analysis, claims reviews, risk management consulting, benchmarking reports, whatever it takes to make them never want to talk to another agent. Everyone else gets good service, but your top 20% get service so good that they become advocates for your business. They refer their friends. They expand their coverage. They never put you out to bid. Most agents feel they give great service to all their accounts. That's a mistake. Your most valuable accounts should get your most valuable service. Your $1,000 accounts should get $1,000 service. Allocate your time based on account value, not account emotion. Section 3, competitive domination. All right, now we're getting down to the part that separates the hunters from the gatherers. Everything I've told you so far about money, account strategy doesn't matter if you can't take business away from other agents. And make no mistake, that's exactly what you have to do. Selling commercial insurance is a zero-sum game. No one needs 2 agents. Someone has to lose for you to win. Most agents are comfortable with this reality. They want to believe there's enough business for everyone that they can succeed without anyone else losing. That's fantasy thinking, and fantasy thinking keeps you broke. Lesson 10, someone has to lose for you to win. Nobody needs 2 agents. So let me be crystal clear about something. This is a zero-sum game. Every piece of business you write, someone else loses. Every commission check you earn represents business that used to belong to another agent. Stop pretending this is a collaborative industry. Stop acting like you're not in direct competition with every other agent in your market. And please, stop feeling bad about taking business from agents who aren't serving their clients properly. I watch agents apologize for winning business. They'll win a big account and then say things like, I feel bad for the other guy. Or I hope they're not too upset. Are you kidding me? You're running a business, not a charity. The incumbent agent had their chance. They had months, years, maybe decades to serve that client properly. If they lost the business, because they didn't earn the right to keep it. Your job isn't to make other agents comfortable. Your job is to serve business owners better than anyone else can. And if that makes other agents uncomfortable, that's their problem to solve. Lesson 11. It's what you do that the incumbent agent doesn't do. That's where your buyer is being underserved, but they don't know it. Look, the key to competitive selling is being a master psychologist, not a persuasion narcissist. Most agents never figure this out. So you're trapped with a selling process that doesn't work very effectively. You can be incredibly successful in this business without ever saying anything negative about the incumbent. You don't have to prove the incumbent agent is bad, and you never have to try and prove that you are great. It's a wrong approach. The persuasion narcissist goes in with a lot of love bombing, big smiles, going big for commonality shared, golf, hunting, motorcycles, looking for that point of connection, and then into his or her experience, working to create trust and credibility. Then the humble route. I don't want your business unless I truly earn it. And then more about what he or she does with an account like this, and then closes with, if I can, will you? The master psychologist takes a different angle. It's called empathy. They imagine what it's like to be the buyer of insurance and what they'd find confusing. And with that, they make a list of proactive services that would solve those problems if they were implemented. And the last part, they simply make the assumption that the buyer is already getting this from the incumbent agent, at which point the buyer discovers their agent isn't doing this. Then the buyer's brain lights up, comes to the conclusion, boom, no wonder this is a mess. And then asks the agent, can you fix this? The persuasion narcissist sells on hope. The master psychologist sells on actions. Which would you rather be? Lesson 12. Producers get stronger when you stress their brain. Hey, if you think of your brain like your bicep, it gets stronger when you stress it. If you don't stress your bicep, it atrophies, it shrinks, it gets smaller, and so does your brain. And one of the most powerful strategies I use to grow producers' thinking capability is simply to put their prospect up on the whiteboard along with the incumbent agent and say, if they have that guy, why does that buyer need you? And here's where you are looking for contrast, the state of being strikingly different from something else in juxtaposition or close association. Here's what I mean. Imagine if you were the buyer. What are you looking for? You're looking for different and better. So therefore, why wouldn't your sales meetings, your sales strategies mirror this desire of the prospect? Also, wouldn't you want to be different or better? When you throw out mushy words like, well, it's my knowledge, my experience, we're local, we have great carriers, a good staff, in-house loss control, and other sundry answers, you start to get real. Because if someone has more knowledge, they know how to do something better. If they have more experience, then they are expert at something, meaning they do something better. So what is it? When you stress the brain to think this way, it starts to become easier over time. Just like lifting weights, you get stronger. And the beauty of this strength is the confidence it breeds. And from there, the financial wins really start to stack up. Lesson 13. A producer with a $500,000 book of middle market accounts could easily double their book through red hot introductions only. Now, I'm going to tell you about the most underutilized strategy in our entire industry. Introductions from existing clients. And I'm not talking about asking for referrals. I'm talking about earning introductions to people who are exactly like your best clients. Your best clients know other business owners exactly like them. They go to the same industry events. They belong to the same associations. They face the same challenges. They too are being underserved by their agents. But here's what most agents do wrong. They wait for referrals instead of asking for introductions. And there's a massive difference. A referral is when a client gives you someone else's name and phone number and says, call them. I mentioned you might reach out. That's weak and it doesn't work consistently. But a red hot introduction is when a client calls their friend and says, I want to introduce you to Bill. Through a combination of three things, claims reviews, return to work program, and improved safety, he just saved me $50,000 on my workers' comp. Is that someone you want to meet? The introduction happens because you provided actionable and quantifiable value to your existing client that they are willing to introduce you to their counterparts. They're proud to know you. They want to help you because you've earned the help. Look, we've all had clients who became unofficial salespeople for our businesses. They'll bring you into their peer groups, introduce you at industry events, and recommend you in situations where you never would have access otherwise. But this works best if you're providing the kind of service that makes clients want to brag about you. If you're just processing renewals or returning phone calls, no one's going to be excited to introduce you to their friends. But you can fix that fast with written service plans instead of vague verbal promises about your service. Section 4, systems and mindset. Now we're going to talk about the foundation that everything else is built on, your systems and your mindset. And this is where most agents fail before they even start because they let other people set their standards, they train like amateurs, and they operate without any real philosophy about what they're trying to accomplish. What I'm about to share with you are the behind the scenes habits and systems that separate top performers from everyone else. This isn't glamorous stuff, but it's the difference between hoping for success and engineering it. Lesson 14. Do not let your boss assign your new business goal unless you want to be mediocre. Look, this might be the most important lesson in this entire video, and it's the one that will make your manager the most uncomfortable. But I don't care about your manager's comfort. I care about your success. Your boss sets your new business goals so they can meet their budget. You should set your goals based on what you want your life to look like. Those are two remarkably different numbers, and if you let your boss choose, you'll get a safe, mediocre life, not one of enormous financial freedom. Look, I've watched producers accept goals that were 8% higher than last year when they needed goals that were 100% higher to fund the life they actually wanted. Then they spend their whole life working dispassionately towards someone else's definition of success. Your manager wants predictable, achievable, safe goals because it makes their life easier. But predictable, achievable, safe goals lead to predictable, achievable, safe lives. Is that what you want? Here's what happens when you set your own ambitious goals. You start thinking differently about everything. You stop writing small accounts because you realize they'll never get you where you want to go. You'll start having bigger conversations with bigger prospects. You start asking for introductions into accounts you really want to write. And when your goal is big enough and important enough to you personally, your subconscious mind kind of goes to work for you, creatively finding ways to help you achieve it. That won't happen when you're working towards someone else's mediocre expectations. Lesson 15. Train like an athlete, not a professional insurance agent. Athletes train to perform under pressure. Most insurance agents train for compliance, meaning you can check the box that you showed up. Which do you think wins more business? Most insurance training is about products, procedures, and regulations. That's important, but it's not what wins business. What wins business is your ability to build relationship, ask better questions, handle objections, present solutions, and close deals. So when's the last time you practiced your presentation skills? When's the last time you videotaped yourself giving a presentation and watched it back? When's the last time you worked on handling objections until you could do it in your sleep? Athletes don't just show up and play. They drill the fundamentals over and over till they become automatic. They study game film. They work with coaches. They practice under pressure. I just want to encourage you to think of this like a sport. There are winners and losers. Keep track of your scores so you know if you're winning or losing. Spend time with a buddy, role-playing and practicing your sales calls until you can deliver it flawlessly under any conditions. Make a list of the objections and how you'd like to respond to them under pressure. Study your wins and losses like an athlete studies game film. Most producers are like high handicap golfers. They wing it. They think personality and relationships are enough. Stop playing to play, start playing to win. And that takes preparation. Lesson 16, it's okay to hate role-playing. It's stupid not to do it. The Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, the Eagles, and about 1,000 other bands have a playlist they have mastered. If not, they couldn't do a concert and get paid. I get inspired watching documentaries of any of these bands because it's fun to watch their creativity come alive. You know, Joe Walsh plays a riff on his guitar, Don Henley comes up with some lyrics, and in 30 minutes, sometimes they have a hit. To me, that's what role plays like. Someone throws out an objection, I think of a comeback. You know, we knock it out back and forth for 30 minutes, and then it's embedded in our skulls for life. Do it often enough, and you have a playlist of objections you're going to run into in most sales calls. It's fun if you throw in a little humor, tap into your wit, create something others can't or won't, and then grind it so that it's in you when you need it. And yeah, maybe it feels a little awkward at first. You could screw it up and get embarrassed. In the beginning, it doesn't seem genuine or authentic, but neither does a golf swing, neither is playing a bar chord on your guitar, and neither did driving a car in the early days. But I did it, and I did it a lot, and it made me millions of dollars. You know why most agents hate role-playing? Because they're afraid of looking bad in front of their peers. If that's the case, go find some new peers or grow a backbone. Look, please tell me you'd rather look bad in front of your peers than you would screw up an opportunity with a prospect that is actually going to cost you money, not just your feelings. So here's what I learned. The money I made from better presentations was worth more than my comfort. Every awkward role play session was an investment in future commission checks. The goal isn't to enjoy role playing, but that could be the outcome. The goal is to be so prepared for every possible sales situation that you can handle anything a prospect throws at you. You want your responses to be automatic, confident, and effective. I see agents stumble through objections in real sales situations because they never practice their responses. They lose business because they're thinking about what to say instead of listening to what the prospect is telling them. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. But no practice makes you broke. Lesson 17. Read fewer books, but study more books. I have a friend that bragged about how many books he read. One a week was his goal. If he has a photographic memory and can recall all of that when needed, it's probably a good thing. But most of us don't. So read fewer books, but study them and apply them, because that's where the money is. So don't brag about how many books you read. Brag about what you learned, about what you implemented, and how it changed your life. Some producers are book collectors, not students. They read a book, feel smart for a week, then move on to the next book without implementing anything they learned. I'd rather see you spend 3 months studying one great sales book and implementing everything in it than read 12 different books during the same period of time and implementing virtually nothing. When I found a book that contained ideas that could help my business, I didn't just read it, I studied it. I took notes. I practiced the techniques. I measured the results. I went back and studied it again. Reading is entertainment. Studying is education. Implementation is transformation. Most agents never get past the entertainment phase, which is why the results never change. Lesson 18. Study the word philosophy and then write your philosophy about what business owners deserve regarding insurance and insurance agents. Philosophy is simply your core beliefs about how things work. Every salesperson already has a philosophy, they just might not have articulated it clearly. It's their fundamental assumption about people, selling, and business relationships. For example, one salesperson might believe people buy emotionally and justify logically, while another believes customers make rational decisions based on facts and features. These are different philosophies that lead to completely different approaches. Why knowing your sales philosophy matters. Look, it shapes everything you do. Your philosophy determines whether you focus on building relationships first or presenting solutions immediately, whether you see objections as barriers or buying signals, and whether you believe in consultative selling or a more direct approach. When you're clear about your philosophy, you become more consistent and authentic. Customers sense when someone's genuine versus just following a script. Your philosophy becomes your North Star during tough sales situations. So discover your philosophy. Think about your most successful sales. What did you believe about the customer in those moments? About the process, about your role? The patterns in your answers will reveal your natural philosophy. You might reflect, hey, my sales philosophy is like my personal playbook. It's what I fundamentally believe about why people buy and how I can best help them. Once I know it, every interaction becomes clearer because I'm not just following techniques, I'm being true to my core beliefs and selling. This makes philosophy practical and immediately relevant to your daily work. This might seem abstract at first, but it's actually the foundation of everything you do in business. If you don't know what you stand for, how can you stand for anything when it matters? Most young producers have never thought about their philosophy. They're just reacting to situations, trying to make sales, hoping something works. They have no guiding principles, no core beliefs, no framework for making decisions. As the author of the Wedge sales process, I believe someone has to lose for you to win. I believe most buyers have lowered their expectations down to what the service they receive and that they are fundamentally content with that. I believe that it's what you do that the incumbent agent doesn't do is where your prospect is being underserved but doesn't know it. And all of this drives my philosophy that I believe I can help a new producer rapidly become successful by teaching them the Wedge sales process, giving them a dozen proactive services, and with this, they can beat their competition with 5 to 15 years of more of experience. See, when you have a clear philosophy, you attract clients who value what you stand for, and you repel clients who don't. And that's not a bug, that's a feature. Lesson 19. A prospecting and sales CRM is different, very different than the reporting CRM most agencies use. Let me tell you about one of the biggest wastes of time in most agencies. The CRM system that's designed to make managers happy instead of making salespeople successful. Most agent CRMs are built for reporting to management, not for actually selling. They're designed to track activities, not improve results. They're bureaucracy tools, not sales tools. A sales CRM helps you manage your pipeline, track your prospects, decision-making process, schedule follow-ups that actually matter, and measure activities that lead to results. But it does more. It helps you set goals that motivate you to do better. It codifies your differentiation so you can distinguish yourself from your competitors. It enables you to make more cold calls faster so you can increase your chance of getting your prospect on the phone and setting an appointment. And when you don't, it has the tools built in to immediately market to your prospect with killer voicemails and emails that position you as a problem solver, not a quoter. It has pre-call strategy built in, meaning you have a database of your competitors with notes and copies of their proposals, so you can prepare to beat them with legitimate predictability, less guessing. But here's another thing. You're not stuck like most of your competitors making verbal service promises. You can create a written service plan in moments. These things make you more effective at selling. A reporting CRM helps your manager know what you did yesterday so they can fill out reports for the CEO. It slows you down with checking boxes, but might make you more effective at useless paperwork. Look, if you have a choice between a system that helps you sell and a system that helps your boss report your activities, choose the one that helps you sell. You can always fill out the reporting forms later, but you can't sell more effectively with the wrong tools. Your CRM should make it easier to set appointments, close business, and make money. If it's not doing those things, it's just keeping you busy. And busy without results is just another way to stay broke. Section 5, personal excellence. Look, we're coming to the final section, and this is about the stuff that happens when nobody's watching. The personal habits, the discipline, and the mindset that separate top performers from everyone else. Because you can have all the right strategies and all the right systems, but if you don't have the personal excellence to execute consistently, none of it matters. This section is about the unglamorous truth that success in this business comes down to doing things other people won't do, even when you don't feel like doing them. So lesson 20, monetize your work at year end. At renewal, I want you to do something that 99% of agents will never do and probably can't do. And that is calculate the actual dollar value of the work you did for your clients throughout the year. Most agents do great work and never quantify its value. They save clients money on claims. They implement safety programs. They negotiate better terms. They prevent lawsuits. They solve problems. And then they never tell anyone what that was worth. Here's what one of my clients did for their client. They implemented a safety program and a return to work plan that reduced their workers' comp claims by $142,000 in 1 year. They negotiated a cyber liability policy that covered a $75,000 ransomware attack. That's $217,000 of value they delivered to one client in 1 year. But if they had never calculated, never documented, never presented it to their client, they would never have gotten the credit they deserve. At the end of every renewal cycle, deliver and review a report for your top clients showing exactly what you've done for them and exactly what it was worth. Not just the insurance coverage provided, but the problems you solved, the money you saved them, the risks you prevented. And this isn't bragging. I mean, this is business. If you don't communicate your value, nobody else will. And if nobody knows your value, they'll replace you with someone cheaper. Lesson 21, tell your agency owner what you want and give them permission to kick your ass to help you get there. This lesson is about accountability, and most agents are afraid of real accountability because they're afraid of failing publicly. Here's what I learned. If you don't give your leader permission to push you harder than you'd push yourself, they'll take it easy on you to avoid conflict. And when they take it easy on you, you both lose. Most agents never have this conversation. They keep their goals to themselves, they avoid accountability, and then they wonder why they never achieve anything significant. Great leaders want to help you succeed, but they need permission to coach you at the level that actually drives results. If you don't give them that permission, they'll give you participation trophy coaching instead of championship coaching. And participation trophy coaching leads to participation trophy results. Lesson 22, Spreadsheet Liars Club meetings are a waste of time. Let me tell you about one of the biggest wastes of time in most agencies. Sales meetings where people report numbers that may or may not be true and nothing changes as a result. I call these Spreadsheet Liars Club because half the numbers are fiction and the other half don't matter anyway. People report pipeline numbers, activity numbers, and forecast numbers that are designed to make them look busy rather than actually improve their performance. Real sales meetings should be about problem solving, skill development, and strategy improvement. They should be about helping each other get better at winning, not about reporting how many calls you made last week. If your sales meetings are more focused on what you did than on what you're going to do differently to get better results, you're probably in the wrong meeting. Lesson 23, eat more protein and drink less booze. Look, this might seem like a strange lesson to include in a business video, but your body affects your mind and your mind affects your cells. I watch agents who are exhausted by 2 p.m., who can't think clearly during important presentations, who don't have the energy to make the extra calls that would change their business. Look, if you're tired, you can't think as clearly. If you can't think clearly, you can't present as effectively. And if you can't present effectively, you can't close as much business. This isn't about becoming a fitness model. This is about having the energy and mental clarity to perform at your highest level when it matters most. Look, this isn't a moral suggestion. It's a productivity suggestion. And trust me on this, I broke this rule too often. I look in the rearview mirror and wish I'd done it differently. Look, you become what you eat and drink, so just be wise. Your business deserves the best version of you, and the best version of you requires taking care of your body and your mind. Lesson 24, the final truth bomb. Here's what I want you to understand as we wrap this up. Everything I've shared with you came from either making this mistake personally or seeing it happen a lot within the producers I coach. Chasing small accounts will keep you broke. Letting other people set your goals will keep you mediocre. Avoiding role play will cost you money. Neglecting your health will affect your performance. The difference between successful producers and everyone else isn't luck and isn't timing. It's willingness to face hard truths about what actually works and what doesn't, and then having the discipline to do what works even when it's uncomfortable. A lot of producers spend their entire careers avoiding discomfort. They avoid the discomfort of setting big goals. They avoid the discomfort of prospecting big accounts. They avoid the discomfort of having difficult conversations. They avoid the discomfort of real accountability. But avoiding discomfort doesn't eliminate it, it just postpones it. And postponed discomfort gets more expensive every year. So if you're serious about getting better at this business, everything I just told you is scratching the surface. The real work happens when you stop watching videos and start changing behaviors. 33 years taught me this. The insurance business will make you rich if you're willing to do what most agents won't do. But the question is, are you going to do it?